Tom the Zombie Goes to School. We publish a new bedtime read-along story every night, so make sure to tap the subscribe button so you never miss any. Part 1, Introduction. Tom was a friendly zombie who loved nothing more than hugging and playing. He enjoyed wandering around the town, hoping to make new friends to play with. But, unfortunately, nobody wanted to be friends with him. Tom was always sad and lonely, wondering why people ran away from him whenever he tried to approach them. He didn't understand why his love for hugs and play wasn't enough for people to accept him. But every time he tried to talk to someone, they would either scream in terror or run away. Tom didn't know what to do. He desperately wanted a friend to play with, but nobody seemed interested in being his friend. So, one day, he decided to go on a journey to find someone who would be willing to be his friend. As he wandered around the woods, Tom couldn't help but feel sad and alone. He missed having someone to talk to, someone to play with, and someone to hug. He felt like he didn't belong anywhere, and nobody would ever accept him for who he was. Part 2, The Encounter. As Tom wandered through the woods, he came across a boy named Mike. Mike was surprised to see a friendly zombie, but unlike others, he wasn't scared of Tom. Tom was overjoyed to meet someone who didn't run away from him, and even more excited when Mike told him that he might be able to go to school just like other kids. Tom was curious about Mike and asked him why he wasn't scared of him. Mike explained that he had always been interested in zombies and other monsters, and he thought that Tom was cool. Tom was delighted to hear that and asked Mike if he wanted to play. Mike agreed, and the two of them played together for hours. As they played, Tom told Mike about his loneliness and how he had always wanted to have friends to play with. Mike listened carefully and offered to help Tom find a way to make friends. He told Tom that he could teach him how to behave like a human and how to talk like them so that he could go to school just like other kids. Tom was hesitant at first, but Mike's enthusiasm and encouragement were contagious. Tom decided to give it a try and asked Mike to teach him everything he knew about being a human. Mike agreed, and they spent the next few weeks working on Tom's disguise. Mike taught Tom how to walk and talk like a human, and even helped him pick out clothes that would fit his zombie body. Tom was excited about the prospect of going to school and making friends, and he couldn't wait to try out his new disguise. As Tom and Mike parted ways, Tom felt grateful to have met someone who accepted him for who he was. He knew that he had found a true friend in Mike, and he couldn't wait to see what adventures they would have together. Part 3, The Plan. After weeks of working on his disguise with Mike, Tom was ready to try out his new human persona at school. Mike helped Tom come up with a plan to introduce himself to the other kids without revealing his true identity as a zombie. Mike suggested that Tom pretend to be a new student who had just moved to town. They decided that Tom would introduce himself as Tim, a shy but friendly kid who was eager to make friends. Tom was nervous about the plan, but Mike reassured him that everything would be fine. Mike told Tom that he would be there to support him every step of the way and that they would make sure that nobody found out his secret. On the first day of school, Tom arrived dressed in his human disguise. He felt anxious as he walked through the halls, wondering if anyone would notice that he was different from the other kids. As he entered his classroom, Tom introduced himself as Tim and took a seat. The other kids were curious about the new student and began asking him questions. Tom was nervous but tried to act as natural as possible. As the day went on, Tom began to relax and enjoy himself. He found that the other kids were friendly and welcoming, and he was grateful for the opportunity to make new friends. Over the next few weeks, Tom continued to attend school as Tim. He made friends with several kids in his class and even joined the school soccer team. He was having the time of his life and couldn't believe that he had finally found acceptance among humans. Despite his happiness, Tom couldn't help but feel guilty about keeping his true identity a secret from his new friends. He knew that eventually, he would have to tell them the truth about who he really was. As Tom continued to navigate his new life as Tim, he began to worry about what would happen when his secret was revealed. But for now, he was just happy to be able to play and have fun like any other kid. Part 4, The Adventure. One day, Tom and Mike were playing at school when Mike accidentally let slip that Tim's name was really Tom. The other children thought it was a bit odd, but didn't say anything, and they all carried on playing. A few days later, Tom overheard some children talking about zombies. He was scared they would find out his true identity and ran away, hiding in the woods. Eventually, Mike found him and asked what was wrong. Tom told him he was worried what would happen when the other children found out he was a zombie. He was worried they wouldn't like him anymore. Mike told him they needed to keep it a secret, but Tom wasn't so sure anymore. The next day, Tom decided to tell everyone the truth. He couldn't keep living a lie and pretending he was something he wasn't. Mike tried to talk him out of it as he was worried that the other children wouldn't accept Tom and Tom would be really upset. But Tom was insistent. Tom was very nervous that day at school. He played with the other children as normal, but they could tell something was wrong. Eventually, he decided it was time to tell them all. He gathered all the other children together, telling them he had something important to say. His mouth was dry as he looked around all the other children, who were waiting excitedly for what he had to say. Mike was shaking his head at Tom, who felt a moment of panic, but then he steeled himself and resolved to go through with it. I'm not really who I say I am. Tom started. The other children looked puzzled. You see, Tom continued, my name isn't Tim, it's actually Tom. The other children looked even more confused, but were still listening. And? Tom started, his throat dry as a bone, I'm not actually human. There was silence. Tom wanted to run away and hide. But he'd started now, so he knew he needed to finish. I'm actually. He started, then his voice faltered. But he went on, I'm a zombie. No one said anything for a few moments. Tom felt awful, he wanted the ground to swallow him up. Then one of the other boys said, cool. And the silence was broken as all the children clamored round him, asking him all sorts of questions about being a zombie. Tom was relieved, delighted and a bit surprised. But you don't hate me? He asked the other children. Of course not, they said, we're glad you told us, but we're just sorry you felt you had to lie. You're perfect the way you are. And with that, Tom felt a rush of happiness at being accepted for who he was. Now enough of that, said one child, let's play. The end. Do you want to hear more stories? Then hit the subscribe button to follow our channel, so you never miss another daily story. And keep listening now, as more stories will play shortly.